We often think building wealth is just a race to some magic number in a bank account, but it's really not. It's a journey. And just like any great journey, the most valuable things you get are the lessons you learn along the way. So let's dive in and see what we can discover together. Meet Akito. He's right at the start of a new beginning, and his mind is pretty focused on one thing, his finances. He gets that some people start out with a lucky tailwind, and others, well, they start with a headwind. You can't control the wind, right? But what you can do is learn how to steer the ship. So let's follow Akito as he gets started and uncover some really powerful lessons about money. All right, lesson one. Akito's first big lesson comes to him in the quiet emptiness of his brand new apartment. And it's a concept that's both super simple and honestly transformative, the magic of compounding. So picture this. He's just sitting on the floor and he has this aha moment. His empty apartment is kind of like a brand new savings account, just waiting to be filled. And he realizes that wealth isn't built overnight. It's built slowly, steadily. He literally looks at the dust settling and sees this perfect metaphor for money. Small habits, like saving a few bucks here, skipping a fancy coffee there, they just accumulate. And over time, they grow into something massive. So what is compounding, really? Well, it's this beautiful, awesome snowball effect. Your money makes money, and then that new money starts making its own money. I mean, you can almost imagine a little animated money tree on screen, right? Where the fruit doesn't just drop. It plants brand new trees. It's a chain reaction, and all it needs is a little time and consistency. And that kind of brings us to a question for you. It doesn't have to be anything huge, seriously. Maybe it's putting aside the cost of one takeout meal a week, or setting up a tiny automatic transfer to savings. What's one small habit you could start that over time could grow into something really significant? Okay, let's move on to the next lesson. This is a big one. Akito learns that our whole idea of what wealth looks like is usually completely wrong. So Akito sees this guy, Daiki, revving the engine of a super flashy, expensive car. But he notices something fascinating. Nobody is actually looking at Daiki. They're admiring the car. And in their heads, they're picturing themselves driving it. This is what's called the man in the car paradox. We see visible wealth and we use it as a benchmark for what we want, not as a sign of respect for the person who spent the money. And this lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you have apparent wealth, all the stuff that screams, hey, look at me, I have money. But on the other side, that's where the real wealth is. The wealth you don't see. The stocks, the savings, the investments that are quietly compounding in the background. They aren't buying a luxury car. They're buying something way more valuable, freedom. This leads Akito to this powerful, almost backwards truth. It's a crazy paradox when you think about it, right? The very act of spending money to show everyone how much money you have is the absolute fastest way to have less of it. It's a performance that literally costs you your financial security. So this is a big one to reflect on. What's one thing you could do, maybe this month, to invest in your financial freedom instead of just your financial image? Okay, so you're compounding your savings, you're focused on real wealth. Awesome. But life happens, right? It's always unpredictable. And this brings Akito to his third big lesson. You have to plan for imperfection. His neighbor, Hana, brings him a small plant as a housewarming gift, and she says it just needs a little bit of patience. For Akito, this simple little plant becomes this huge metaphor. He realizes that just like the plant needs some extra soil in its pot to handle a dry spell or to grow new roots, his financial plan needs a buffer. It needs room for error. And here's the key takeaway. It's so simple, but so true. If your plan needs everything to go absolutely perfectly for it to work, then your plan is already broken. Because life is never perfect. A tire will go flat, an unexpected bill will show up. A good plan doesn't just prepare for success, it has a cushion built in for the setbacks. So this buffer has a more official name, an emergency fund, and it's not an investment. Think of it more like insurance. It's the money that just sits there, ready to save you from having to sell your real investments or go into debt when life does what it does. It keeps a small problem from turning into a total financial disaster. So take a second and really think about it. If you got hit with a surprise $1,000 expense tomorrow, would your plan just bend a little or would it completely break? Now, this last lesson, this one might be the most important because it's not about the math. It's all about psychology. It's about figuring out your own finish line in a world that is always telling you to just keep running. The first real set of bills arrives, and Akito feels that familiar pull.
The anxiety, the urge to work 3 jobs, to just get ahead faster. But then he stops himself. He recognizes what it is, the trap of never enough. He gets that if you're always moving the goalposts, you're running a race that you can never, ever win.
We can define this trap as a really dangerous cycle. You hit a financial goal, but instead of feeling satisfied, you just immediately set a higher one. So that feeling of satisfaction is always just over the horizon. It's like a finish line in a cartoon that just keeps getting pushed back every time the runner gets close. The only way you can win that game is to decide to stop running. This is a really personal question. Forget social media, forget what your friends are doing. What does financial contentment, what does success actually look like for you? What's the number that lets you sleep peacefully at night? So, after these 4 lessons, what did Akito actually get? What's the real prize at the end of this whole financial journey? As the night falls, Akito is standing on his balcony. He's not the richest guy he knows. He definitely doesn't have the flashiest stuff. But he has something so much more valuable, a sense of control over his own life. He built a system where money works for him, not the other way around. He's free. So here it is. This is the blueprint for freedom that we've pulled from Akito's story. Number 1, start small and let your money do the hard work of compounding. 2, focus on building that real unseen wealth, not just showing off. 3, always build a buffer for error into your plan. And number 4, decide what enough means to you so you know when you've actually won the game. And that leaves us with one last thought. These lessons, they're not just about money, are they? They're about designing a life of freedom, a life of control, a life of contentment. So the real question is, what blueprint are you building?